Extremely optimistic about Tesla's prospects. Yes, it will now rise significantly. Okay, so this is the bottom. In order to create the affordable car, they are venturing into the field of robotaxis. Therefore, they are producing the inexpensive car, but they are doing so because they currently have extra capacity. They can produce 3 million cars annually. Now they are producing 1,000,008. Therefore, they can produce an additional 1,000,002 cars in an existing plant without further funding. Additionally, they will not produce the car as cheaply or directly as they had previously anticipated. However, they anticipate selling 5 million of these new vehicles overall. They manufacture automobiles. After deducting the $7,500 credit, they earn $7,000 for each car sold for $35,000. However, I believe that all automobiles will eventually be electric, and that this hybrid is really a stopgap measure to spare automakers from having to lose money on the electric vehicles. However, I believe that in 10 to 15 years, all cars will be electric. Additionally, I believe hybrids, I know you adore hybrids, will not endure. In addition to being excessively costly, they are ineffective and will not be included in the mix. Everything will be electrified. In my opinion, it is a technology corporation that offers services to both their own business and other companies. No one else could possibly match them. They have technology, data, and lower car prices. Every time Ford produces one of these electric vehicles, they lose $36,000 on each vehicle. These days, our business makes between $8,000 and $9,000 each automobile. They were profiting between $5,000 and $1,000 per automobile. However, if a $7 billion plant is built for 1 million cars, it will make $15 billion annually, which is $15 billion on a $7 billion investment. $15 billion on an investment of $7 billion. A typical industrial business would earn 15% to 20% on capital. Twice a year, this man makes his capital. He now only does it once a year. He's the lowest cost individual, earning $8 billion in a $7 billion plant. The entire company is set up to drive down prices. There is more to Tesla's remarkable success than merely watching from the sidelines. With the most recent information on Tesla, including stock price targets, innovation, and all things Elon Musk, Seeking Alpha is the one-stop shop for Tesla bulls and those with an eye for finding the next big thing in the stock market. Our channel may receive a commission if a customer makes a purchase after clicking on the affiliate links in the description. However, I believe that SpaceX will be. I believe that over the next 15 years, we will make 20 times as much in SpaceX. In the next 6 or 7 months, I believe we will make a quadruple. Can it be too large? Yes. We are long-term investors, so we are constantly keeping an eye on things. We go to the businesses we invest in. We research companies, examine prospects, and interact with individuals. We're long-term, though. I do believe that we will have a lot more money to handle when you look at the performance of the stocks that we have invested in. Therefore, it will be diluted by the fresh money that comes in, constantly considering the size of the roll. Yes, when the market is doing so well, it's not that thrilling to be up 1% in a year. I don't care about the short term, you know. Even though I'm not impoverished, I haven't made much progress in the past 3 years, and you see everyone else growing rich all the time. I consequently believe it to be similar to a rubber band. I will catch up once again, but what I believe is that the stock is down because people were worried that he would give up on having a cheap automobile and focus entirely on robotaxis. The stock is down because of this. Then, according to a Reuters story, he is closing this new plant that will produce robot cars, which will compete with Chinese automakers by producing low-priced automobiles that cost $25,000. By the way, there is just one profitable company in China. That's BYD, the business owned by Warren Buffett. And our company makes $4 billion per quarter, while that company makes $1 billion. Nobody else earns money. Ford loses a lot. General, this is a financial loss for everyone. Making these autos is far more difficult. It's interesting, you know. Yesterday, I was discussing motors. Therefore, a car's motors cost $5,000. The typical cost of these 100-year-old businesses is $5,000. For $1,000, we can create a motor. $5,000 is what I'm referring to. You're manufacturing automobiles with internal combustion engines. I'm just talking about how businesses have become so stale and accustomed to doing things the same way they always have that they don't seek out new activities or ways to do things. Instead, they operate with the goal of making things less expensive. He can complete tasks that cost others $5,000 for just $1,000. It's incredible. That is, suppose you wanted to start a gasoline-powered electric vehicle company. What I'm trying to say is that people become ingrained in their habits and don't try to improve, reduce, or speed things up over time. That is not the intention. Show me the incentives and I'll show you how people act, Ayer says after the war. And that's the notion that individuals, the incentives, what's the incentive for a person who's 55 years old? We must stop doing this. However, thought that's why the stock is down. I wanted to watch what Cruise was doing, so we have a tiny stake in them. Additionally, their vehicles cost $250,000. They're attempting to cut costs. It's software for us. Basically, the advantage that Tesla now has is that they have sold 6 million cars, of which 3.5 or 4 million are being used to gather data. Therefore, the most valuable thing is the data. Their computing capacity is being doubled. Last Sunday, I traveled to Vail, California, to observe their efforts in the areas of artificial intelligence, capital expenditures, and the mountain. After that, which was on Sunday, I spent the morning of Monday in SpaceX in Los Angeles, together with a few engineers and financial professionals. When I visited Tesla in the afternoon, I was surrounded by both the computing and autonomous driving staff. Ron, would you like to see how we've made unbelievable advances? They asked me after that. In order to code every single event that occurred, the first 11 versions had to be created. As a result, it took them 2 or 3 years to make any progress. A plateau was reached. And now that version 12 has arrived, they have a ton of data, and they are using computation to determine the cause. It is impossible for humans to perform. They must now use computation to determine everything. You are now on the brink of having your car drive itself. Okay, show me, I said. Then, before I returned to New York, I said, okay, so I want to see how it works. We do this for a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours. We then enter the parking area and climb into our vehicles. I'm also accompanied by an analyst. Subsequently, there was the compute person and an investment person. We are currently seated in the vehicle. So where do you want to go? I stated. I want to see Steve Jobs' house. They then respond. Okay, we get inside the car once they enter the address. The car is driven by itself. We just punched it in. We didn't do everything. Drives through the parking lot and into the street. Both directions of traffic are present. It searches both directions for an entrance to enter. Once it finds one, it pulls in, turns left, and follows closely behind the vehicles ahead of us. A stop sign appears. The first vehicle stops and moves on. The second automobile pulls over and leaves. When we reach the stop sign, the automobile turns right, glances in both directions, and then simply drives. After then, a pedestrian suddenly crosses the street. To allow the pedestrian to cross the roadway, the vehicle stops. I'm not sure whether I was being set up on this, but the automobile resumes its journey after the pedestrian waves. After that, it drives, pulls up, turns left, and passes in front of Steve Jobs' residence. The house is excellent. But it was only a house. It turned out to be a house, just as I had anticipated. Thus, it came to a halt in front of Steve Jobs' residence. Then he has that house next door, which he and his wife also own. Then they listed a what appears to be 3/4 of an acre for $15 million next door. Then it drove alone back through Vail. What would actually occur is that I believe the objective had been that you would sell a large number of autos. Thus, as a consequence of